Hey everyone, this is Ed Gutowski. I'm going to be your English 1C instructor. And what I wanted to do was just create a welcome video that sort of welcomes you to class, introduces the class, and talks about the textbooks for our course. Hey, English 1C is a really fun class. I mean, both online and on ground. English 1C is just such a great class. And English 1C is a class that focuses on one thing and one thing only, focuses on rhetoric and argument. So in that sense, I guess we could say it focuses on two things. And in the first week of class, we're going to keep things kind of simple. And then starting in week 2, we'll kind of shift gears to the rhetoric and argument component of the course. But what I wanted to do was just talk about the textbooks. So all the textbooks are required for class. So our first textbook we're going to use, this is the textbook for class. It's called Everything is an Argument. And I've been using this textbook basically since I've been teaching English 1C. I find it's pretty accessible for students. It helps them understand key concepts of rhetoric and argument, such as logos, pathos, ethos, and fallacies. And then there's some great readings and a couple of exercises that we'll use through the term. So that's the first textbook. The next one we're going to use is a book called Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. And Into the Wild is just really a really interesting book, and I've used it a lot. Students are engaged by it, and it's a fun book to teach. And I think one of the reasons why is because the main character in the story is kind of similar to many of my students in my classes. You know, here you have this kid who's graduating from college. He goes to this prestigious university in the South, and as he's getting ready to graduate, he does something bizarre. He basically sells all of his possessions, gets rid of all of his money, and disappears into the wild, and no one knows what happens to him. So you can imagine, you know, his parents are freaked out. They hire a private detective to kind of see what they can find their son. And 6 months later, this kid walks into Alaska with 6 pounds of rice and a pistol and tries to live off the land and ends up dying of starvation. And the author, Jon Krakauer, wanted to know what would motivate a kid who had everything going for him, smart, educated, from a well-to-do family, to kind of do something so foolish and brash. And so when we start the novel, I'm going to imagine that you guys are kind of the private detectives that the parents hire, and you're going to look for clues what motivates the student. And in that sense, we'll start setting up arguments about the book and what motivated the main character. And Into the Wild is always fun. Some students have read it before, and if you've read it before, I have a really unique approach. So even if students who've come back and returned to the novel said they really appreciate that different perspective. The second book we're going to look at is a book called Rihanna's Diary. It's a brand new book that was found about the Holocaust, and it's been compared to the Diary of Anne Frank. It's kind of unique because what it does is it gives us the perspective of a young girl growing up in Poland as first the Germans occupy and then the Russians occupy Poland during the war. And again, I've used this book before. Students really liked kind of looking at the Holocaust, having a better understanding of the Holocaust, and then kind of students really liked the book, so I wanted to use it again. We're also going to use a book about James Baldwin called Begin Again. James Baldwin's America and Its Urgent Lessons for Our Own. I've been using some books about James Baldwin recently. It can really give us some insight into issues of race and race America. This is actually the second time I'll be teaching it. Last semester, students really liked it, so I wanted to continue with that. We'll also look at Shakespeare's Henry V. Henry V is epic. It's a play that really deals about a young, inexperienced prince who becomes king, and it really deals with rhetoric, it deals with power, and it deals with war. Again, I know that Shakespeare can kind of be intimidating for students, especially online, but I found that, again, the lesson plan's accessible. Students who really liked Henry, and I got great papers. And then the last book we're going to look at is the Siegel Reader Essays. Believe it or not, this book was voted the best book in my class. Students love the readings. They're pretty engaging. There's some great arguments. So you got a kind of a sense of what the book's are going to be like for a class. It may seem like a lot, but really it always works out. Just have faith in the system because all of the reading is really engaging and really fun. And then for the first week, really basically what you're going to do, you got to send me a welcome email. There's a set of poems that are the foundation of our class. I'm going to have you read over. There's a discussion board on it, and then also there's a short essay. But I'm really looking forward to our class. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email. But English 1C, it's going to be great. So I look forward to seeing what your comments are on things.